friends. It's a joy once again to continue. This is week 5 of our studies in Know the Word, Know Jesus. And today we are going to be focusing on Genesis 45, end of 45, into 44 into 45. So as we are talking about this chapter, I want to tell you that I've read this chapter so many times, and all of a sudden when I was listening to it through the app, I was moved to tears as I was listening to it, and I was meditating on the powerful message that the word contains to us, can be transformative and moving, and God continues to speak to us even when a story has been known to us for a long time. Now, as we are talking about the story of Joseph and kind of the climax of the encounter of Joseph after 22 years without seeing his brothers, if you don't know the story, you're wondering if after being betrayed, after being mocked, after going through these awful situations in his life, how can somebody respond well? You and me, there are moments that maybe you are finding yourself rehearsing a response that you should have had to somebody that hurt you. Maybe you find yourself replaying something that maybe you did, and you are regretting those decisions, that you're regretting those moments. Sometimes something triggers a memory, sometimes something triggers a thought, and all of a sudden it feels like you are stuck. It feels that there are some moments in our lives that are so powerful because somebody hurt us really bad, or we still feel the pain of what we caused, or the pain that somebody else caused in us. And there are moments in our life where we really feel like we are stuck, that we cannot get away from it. And in some way, or forms, it feels like those things hinders you from being able to engage properly with what is in front of you. Sometimes you are so stuck with those pains, memories, and nobody's downplaying them, but it feels like you cannot move away from it. It's like it doesn't encourage you to engage or try new things because you are constantly remembering those moments. So one of the things that I was thinking about is, so how do I know that I'm stuck in the past? Well, one of the things I was meditating upon is that you know that you're stuck when that wherever you go, it seems that everything reminds you of your pain. You know that you're stuck when you cannot let it go. When you go over and over and over again, either in conversations or go over and over in your head, or it's always present. You know that you're stuck when you do not feel like attempting anything else because you don't want to repeat the same situation. You don't want to go back to the same situation. You know that you're stuck when, if given the opportunity to spill the beans about what somebody else did, you just are willing and ready to do that, to share all the pain that so and so caused you in your life. So I don't know what are the ways in which you know that you can be stuck. There are maybe multiple, and you can share that with your family there, or with your friends, if you are part of one of the small group, or maybe you want to start one. But I want to encourage you to open your Bibles in Genesis 45, and this is the end of Judah's confession to Joseph. Judah, one of Joseph's brothers, didn't know who he was. And as I was reading this, I want you to imagine the story in your head. Now, verse 27 of chapter 45 says this: "Your servant my father said to us, You know that my wife bore me 2 sons. One of them went away from me, that was Joseph, and I said, he has surely been torn to pieces, and I have not seen him since then. If you take this one from me too, and harm comes to him, you will bring my grey head down to the grave in misery. So now, if the boy is not with us when I go back to your servant my father, and if my father, whose life is closely bound up with the boy's life, sees that the boy isn't there, he will die. Your servants will bring the grey head of our father down to the grave in sorrow. Your servant guaranteed the boy's safety to my fathers, and I said, if I do not bring him back to you, I will bear the blame before you, my father, all my life. Now then, please let your servant remain here as my lord's slave in place of the boy, and let the boy return with his brothers. Now, can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? No, do not let me see the misery that would come upon my father. All of a sudden we see this scenario that Joseph is being witness of a change that had happened on his brothers since the moment that they sold him into slavery because they were jealous because of the things that Joseph was saying back then. There were dreams that God has given them. Maybe he had not managed them too well, and we have our own doubts about what should be in the best way. But all of a sudden we see that his brothers who commit a sin of selling him into slavery and lying to their father, they are not the same. They are remembering their own sins. They're remembering the pains that they caused, and they don't want to repeat it. And they cannot be away from it, and they know that event is haunting them all the time. And this is what chapter 45 says about Joseph's response. Then Joseph could no longer control himself before all his attendants, and he cried out, have everyone leave my presence. So there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers. And he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard him, and Pharaoh's household heard about it. Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still living? But his brothers were not able to answer him because they were terrified at his presence. Then Joseph said to his brothers, come close to me. Then, when they had done so, he said, I am brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed, and do not be angry with yourself for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now I have been family in the land, and for the next 5 years there will be not be plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve you, a remnant on earth, and to save your life by a great deliverance. So then it was not you who sent me here, but God. He made me father to Pharaoh, lord of his entire household, and ruler of all Egypt. Now hurry back to my father and say to him, this is what your son Joseph says, God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come down to me. Do not delay. You shall live in the region of Goshen and be near me, you and your children and your grandchildren, your flocks and your herds and all you have. I will provide for you there, because 5 years of famine are still to come. Otherwise, you and your household and all who belong to you will become destitute. You can see for yourself, and so can you, my brother Benjamin. That is really I who am speaking to you. Tell my father all about the honor accorded me in Egypt, and about everything you have seen, and bring my father down here quickly. Now, what happened to Joseph? Could this be the same Joseph that was betrayed by his brothers, that God mistreated? I mean, he was sold into slavery. He was a slave. He was then taken for as a liar. He was taken advantage of. He was mocked. He was denigrated. He was humiliated. He was mistreated. Now he was forgotten. Now, what else could we say about the life of Joseph? So how did Joseph avoid getting stuck in the pain and in the blame game and in all the misery that he went through? I mean, one of the things that I was thinking about is that Joseph has been saying, it was God who sent me here, but he didn't say that God was the one who did all this to me. He was acknowledging that there was something special about all that. That even though there was a lot of pain, and he's not saying there was no pain, he went through all that, but there was something that happened in his life that made a huge difference. There was something that it is proven to be happening in Joseph's lives that allow him to react differently. I don't know you, but how would you feel if there was when you're driving and all of a sudden you see the screens that shows your speed? Can you imagine if there will be a trigger about when you're driving like in a highway, and all of a sudden it will be displaying all your mistakes? You know what I mean? Oh yeah, he's going 10 miles over the speed limit, but this was not the first time he did it. You should have seen him last week when he was angry and he was driving like a maniac and almost caused an accident. That would be embarrassing. Yet all of a sudden when we all make mistakes, and I'm not downplaying the situations where somebody did cost a lot of pain. I'm not downplaying the situations of abuse. I'm not downplaying anything of that. I'm not advocating for that those people would set with no problem. I think that has to be if there is a need of justice to happen, it has to happen. But in the life of each one of us that maybe have experienced a lot of pain, or maybe those that are stuck because they're remembering all the pain that it have caused, all of a sudden we are in a mess of pain that it doesn't seem to be able to go away, that you are thinking about all the pain all the time, that you are it's coming over and over, and it seems that you want to get off from it, that you might be able to change a scenario. You might be able to change the places where you work, the places where you have been growing up into, but all of a sudden those memories do not go away. Those triggers continues to happen no matter where you go. And so there's a situation that that we can see here in Joseph's life, that he was not looking for the first opportunity he had to slam his brothers. Although I think about that sometimes, I wish when I'm stuck, I wish that I will take any advantage I have to set the record straight, to be vindicated. And sometimes that's what you feel, that it will make things better, when in reality it's not. There's no thing that we can do about our past pain that will make it go away, that will make it be like nothing happened and that nothing ever happened. We cannot change the past. The past has happened, and sometimes we just stuck because we feel that there has not been justice, and probably has not been justice around. Maybe nobody knows of what other people did to you. Maybe nobody knows of the things that you're carrying in your heart. But Joseph had plenty of opportunities in those 22 years to rehearse the plan, and especially as he was finding ways in which God was opening doors. Sometimes you might misinterpret the opportunities that God placed in front of you just as a reward for the plans that you have, and it's not that way. There is a huge difference in Joseph's life. You might feel that you're lost or broken, but it doesn't mean that in the middle of your brokenness and despite the pain and hurt in life, that there is no hope or future. There is. It doesn't mean that there is no way in which God cannot do something in your life, or to the point of restore your life and use that past pain in your life to make something beautiful out of it. As I was thinking about the story of Joseph and the story that we carry with all our pain, the image that came to my mind is the image of a mosaic. A mosaic is made out of plenty amounts of things that were broken, little pieces of something that maybe was shattered, maybe that you will try to put it all together and you don't have all the pieces, but combined with other pieces of other things, there's an artist that can put those things together and make a beautiful thing. So maybe you are all what you can see right now in your life are broken pieces, and that the story feels like unfinished, and you're wondering if there is any hope for the future. And the reality is that God sees it. God sees you, and what God sees is beyond of what you can see. And God is inviting you to allow Him to work in you, so He can use those pieces of your broken life to redeem your story. Because God is not the one who made the pain in your life to happen, because it was a result of somebody else's sin. So God is not a sadist, but God has been suffering along with you. God has been with you, even though the amount of pain has been shouting so loud in your life, to the point that you cannot be able to listen God's voice in the middle of all that. It doesn't make God absent. It doesn't mean that God has not been there. It doesn't mean that God has not been suffering along with you. It doesn't mean that God was okay with it. But in a way that we cannot understand of how is He working, although we wish to know all the details of how this could be happening, God offers us a way out of there. So our life is not stuck on the pain that other people caused in our lives, all the hurdles that we have been going through. God invites us to trust Him by imitating His example. God is never asking you to do something that He has not done already. So when we see, like in Genesis 45, of a story of a transformed person like Joseph, we know that in our life, no matter how messed up our life is, there is hope. I'm not minimizing the pain that you're suffering. I'm not saying that I'm not minimizing the guilt or the abuser, or saying that it was nothing. I'm saying that meantime there is a resolution to all those things. There are many things that are really outside of our control, and we get stuck on the pain, and we cannot move past that, and we are stuck. I'm just saying that in God there is hope, that God opened a way for us to not be stuck on that, to be able to move ahead despite of what we are carrying, despite of the results of that. There is hope. There is something better. There is something that God can do in us and through us, despite the amount of wrongness done to us, despite the wrong that we have done. I'm not downplaying your internal wrestling. I'm not downplaying it. I'm not saying that you might not need help. I'm not saying that counselors and doctors are of no good. That's not what I'm saying. In fact, what I'm saying is that although those things are helpful, they help in a certain way. Those things come helpful as part of a holistic plan that God wants to do in you and with me. That there is a secret key, secret path that God offers us to all of us to be able to start unlocking the chains and unlocking the things that has been keeping us stuck for so long. And that is forgiveness. Forgiveness is something God is asking us to offer, because it's the same gift that we have received. It's the same gift that God invites us to extend because we have received it. We didn't deserve to be forgiven, and others perhaps do not deserve to be forgiven by the hurt or the pain that they have caused. But it's outside of your realm of ability to bring justice. Because even if you can't pay eye by an eye, tooth for a tooth, that will not make your pain go away. It will add to your pain, because then you know that you have done justice on your own hands. Sometimes we are disappointed because it seems that there is no justice. Sometimes we get upset because it seems that there is no way to ease that pain. But God is offering you the gift of forgiveness. Not only to you, but so you can extend it to others as well. Because eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, and the revenge and the paybacks, the only thing that adds is add more pains to the equation. More pain to your life, more pain to somebody else's life, and vice versa, and so on, multiplied by thousands. And doesn't go away. It's just an integrated amount of pain that doesn't bring any resolution. But God made a way for us to get unstuck. God made a way. God opens doors for freedom to be able to encounter a better future. God opens doors of freedom so you don't have to be the justice garden. You can trust Him that ultimately He is the one who has been there, has seen every single detail, and there is nothing that escapes His perfect ability to bring justice sooner or later. But you're not required to always be in alert mode. That God allows you to be able to rest, to find the mental rest, to find the rest in your soul that you have been longing for, and the spiritual peace that you have been longing for. That peace only comes from the gift that God offered us of forgiveness to us, so we can also extend to others. We didn't deserve we didn't deserve to be forgiven, but God did. God offered us a way off the mess to find ourselves, because we can let it go. We can let go of that burden that we have been carrying for so long. We probably have caused so much pain in us by trying to hold on to that and carry all that weight on us. God offers you the ability to be able to forgive, to let go of that weight that you have been carried. God didn't ask you to do something that He was not willing to do Himself. He suffered. Jesus suffered for the sins that He didn't commit. And yet He willingly went there so that others will find forgiveness. He offered us both, the one who was wronged and the one that commit the wrong acts. The one who did the wrong and the one who was wronged. It's a way for them to find peace. Sometimes we get stuck there because we don't want the other person, the one who wronged us. We don't want them to find peace, because we are so in so much pain that it feels that it's unfair. Yet God says that's not something for you to carry. That's a rock that is way too big for you to carry. Trust me. God is inviting you to find peace, and peace cannot be found without forgiveness. Justice will be served in one way or another one. And justice also was served on Jesus on behalf of our sins. So there's no need for us to be demanding more than was already offered. Jesus' sacrifice on the cross is enough. He prayed for our freedom with his body on the cross. God is not the author of the pain, but he is the redeemer of our lives. He is the one who can make something beautiful out of that chaos. And that's what we see in Joseph's life. So Joseph, all of a sudden, I was studying about this, and I found this book, Total Forgiveness, for R.T. Kendall. And there's a section in that based on this little passage of Joseph, and I would like to bring it on to you because from this passage, what caught my attention was verse 5. It says, saying, "Do not be angry with yourselves." There is something that God unlocked in Joseph's heart, that he didn't want his brothers to be angry with themselves anymore. He didn't want the guilt and the pain to continue driving their lives anymore. He wanted to release them from the pain. That was something that caught my attention. God, he says in verse 8, says, "God sent me ahead of you." Even though he might have felt that they didn't deserve it. Or there's some change in his life that happened that allowed him to be able to see the bigger picture, that God has been working and writing the story. And then in verse 11, what showed me another change is that he not only released them from the pain, but he also did something amazing, is that a promise that he was going to provide for them because they needed to stay alive for the next 5 years of famine. Now, R.T. Kendall shows some other thing that is in the beginning of chapter 45, that when Joseph needs to talk about that he is the one, that he was Joseph, the one that he was sold into slavery. He didn't want to expose his brothers. He didn't want to talk about their sins with other people. So this is what R.T. Kendall talks about in his book Total Forgiveness, that there are signs in Joseph's lives of the forgiveness. And we can see the same things in our lives. So he says, "Do not let anyone know what somebody said about you or did to you." That's one of the signs of total forgiveness. And Joseph did not want anybody else to know what they have done. So I know that my heart is experiencing this being unstuck when I'm not worried and I'm not trying to find a way to make sure that everybody knows the pain that have caused us. I don't need to be talking about that. So Joseph did not. So forgiveness opens a way for us to not need to do that. Then R.T. Kendall also says, number 2, do not allow anyone to be afraid of you or intimidated by you. Now, he is fantastic because Joseph comes close to their siblings and comes close to them and hugs them. So he could totally use the position of power that he had to be able to drive back and use it for punishment, and he didn't. That reminds me, that power is not the ability to do what you want to do, but power is the ability to contain yourself even when you have the ability to use it for your purposes. And I am so taken by Joseph's ability to contain himself, and he didn't let his anger or pain drive his behavior, but he was able to focus on God. He knew that ultimately the one who was writing his story, although the pain and the mess and the things that we cannot comprehend in the middle of that mix, he knew that ultimately the writer of our story is God. And he wanted God to write his story, not his pain. So I'm wondering who's writing my story on your story when it comes to pain. Number 3, R.T. Kendall says we want them to forgive themselves and not feel guilty. So in verse 5, he says, do not be angry with yourselves. He's trying to release them from that weightiness, from that guilt that they have been carrying for so long. Forgiveness brings away of freedom to everybody in the equation, because that is not from God. And then number 4, he says, he will let them save, we will let them save face. So when R.T. Kendall says that we will let them save face, God, this is an example that Joseph did, is that he was seeing this story but not focusing on the pain but on the good side. So he was trying to save them, or telling hiding the person's error, so that they are saving them from being embarrassed. And so you know that you are being freed from the pain when your desire is not that the people who will be embarrassed, but to find meaning and have some hope outside of that event. You don't want to rehearse it and bring it back all the time. So number 5, R.T. Kendall says they protect them from the greatest fear. He was maybe like their brothers, when they realized that who Joseph was they were afraid that maybe that will haunt them. And when the brothers before were finding the money in their sacks and the cups showing up, they were associating it with the sin that they have committed many years ago. So imagine 22 years living with that in that and rehearsing what could happen. So if they have seen Joseph being the second in charge in Egypt, their fears will be going rampant of what could have happened. And so Joseph is just showing an example that he's trying to release them from that fear. He is helping them carry through and move along. And also R.T. Kendall says that it is number 6, that forgiveness is a lifelong commitment. In Joseph's life, it continued although after his dad passed away. So if God is offering us the gift of forgiveness, I'm wondering what are the things that doesn't allow us to extend forgiveness to others? What will be the rationale for that? What are we afraid of when that would happen if we forgive to others? Now, forgiveness is not natural. Forgiveness is a gift from God that we get to experience because we have been forgiven. I'm wondering right now, what are the things what kinds of pains you are carrying that leads you to have those imaginary conversations that brings you back to it over and over. What are the triggers in your life that brings you back to those things? And I want to encourage you that you come to the Lord and ask for help to be able to forgive, because we want to be a community that is not carrying this heaviness of the pain, but is finding freedom in the love of the Lord for us, the freedom and love that helps us to move on from those moments, although sometimes we're going to have scars. But those scars reminds us of the goodness that we have received, and in that we will be freed from those fears, from those anxieties, from the pain of those memories. And may God would be able to use all this pain to write a fantastic story of hope, of enthusiastic intonation of the love that we have found in God, and the hope and transformation that only God happens when we allow God transform our hearts. Brother and sister who is watching right there, I just want you to know that I'm praying that we all experience that our lives are being able to recognize that God is the one who is running our story and wants to give a story a different twist that is not defined by our pain, that is not defined by our moments of being mad, stuck, and bitter, but where there is a work of God that we cannot comprehend fully, but comes by a miraculous act of the ability to forgive and to let go. I know that this doesn't answer all the questions, but I know that God God is in the midst of us. He wants you to be able to experience freedom. He doesn't want you to be stuck in your past. So let's let the Lord work in us and through us. So when the opportunity comes, we can engage with the opportunities that God gives for us. That we can be a blessing to everybody around us, no matter what happened in the past. And may we see stories of transformations that starts by encountering the love of Jesus in us. So through that love that we received, we can extend to others. May the Lord bless you, and may your life be unstuck.